Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Khalil Doheny, and I'm Director of Content Marketing at Digital Niche Agency. And before we jump straight into things, wanted to go ahead and quickly share my screen. I'm going to be going through some testimonials we have here, and then we'll go ahead and get started with a video, and then I'll introduce everyone for the webinar today. Do that. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Perfect. All right, so these are what the customers are saying. Amazing skis. My knees never felt better, and they handle great in the back country on site. No chatter or vibration transmitted to your knees. A real on-site champ. Easier flex and less weight equals a longer day on the slopes before the fatigue sets in. Clearly, people are saying that these are great on their knees. And that's what we're here to talk about today. We're not here just to talk about the product, but also, what the people are saying about it. And before we jump straight into things, here is a video.
Hi, my name's Ira Evans. I'm an orthopedic knee surgeon. I've been practicing for 30 years, and I've been fortunate enough to be skiing for 30 years. I think I've probably done in the vicinity of 8 to 10,000 partial knee, total knee replacements. My practice is focused more on, again, knee work, so it's basically sports knees as well as reconstructive surgery. And I'm also a client. I'm skiing on metal and plastic myself, so I've had bilateral, lateral unicompartmental arthroplasties. I like to ski pretty much everything on the hill. I like the trees, bumps. Getting a little old, but I still like speed. We like to go backcountry skiing. We get more into that as well. So pretty much whatever the mountain throws at us. My sense of how VibeStop responds when you load it is it gets stiffer. So when you let off on it, it lightens up. So you're not trying to constantly push it to get on edge. The vibration is translated up into your kneecap joint, which is going to put a lot of stress across the front of your knee, quads. I think it enables you to take a lot of the stress off the anterior front of the knee and unload that knee joint. I think it's certainly possible that it would have a significant benefit to keeping the skier on the ski and not fatigue as much. I think VibeStop puts a lot less stress on the patellofemoral kneecap joint and enables people to ski longer because they're less fatigued. I have to say I've been very pleasantly surprised. It's very easy to advocate for something that you believe in, and having had the opportunity to ski these now for 2 weeks in multiple variable conditions have confirmed, at least in my own mind, they're a great ski, and for me, I think I ski better. I've been very fortunate to be able to get back on the hill and pretty much ski how I want to ski, and more importantly, to be with my family.
There we go. Rob, thank you for joining us today. And Rob, if you want to go ahead and introduce Dr. Ira here, and then we can go ahead and get straight into the webinar.
That'd be great. Thank you, Khalil, and thank you everybody for joining. We're excited to delve into this topic today. I'm Rob Golden, CEO of Renoun, and with me is Dr. Ira Evans. One person that is missing today, who couldn't be with us, is Cyrus, founder and designer of Renoun skis. But I think we'll use today to focus on the aspect of our skis, and as you said, Khalil, what customers are telling us, and maybe dive a little bit into why that might be, why we're seeing those kind of benefits from the skis. So let me introduce Ira again, and we'll dive into this. But Ira, you want to introduce yourself?
So I'm been practicing orthopedics for well over 30 years. My training was originally in a heavy laden residency program that was very focused on reconstructive surgery, and then subsequently went into the Navy, was doing a lot of younger knee work, sports knees, meniscal work, ligament reconstruction, dislocated knees, complicated sports stuff. Then did a sports fellowship in knee reconstruction, and have now focused my practice well over 30 years now in pretty much knee reconstruction, everything from sports to ligament meniscus arthroscopy, as well as knee replacements, both partial as well as total knee replacements. So I've been pretty much, I've seen the development of knee work for over a long period of time, much as I hate to admit it. So.
Well, and you and I have known each other for quite a while. Luckily, I haven't been a patient that you've had to do reconstructive knee surgeries. However, you certainly looked at my knees, and as you know, and for all of those of you out there, I thought it would be very important to get a perspective like somebody like Ira as we dive into this topic. But before we do, there's a couple key things I want to make sure we cover that the lawyers would be happy about. So, I mean, a couple key questions, Ira. You know, are we compensating you in any way for being part of this webinar today?
You're not.
And you know, do you own or have you invested in Renoun in any way? Are you an equity holder?
I have not. No.
Okay. We'd like to give him some skis, but the ones we used to demo, he gave them back to us, so we haven't even given them skis yet.
I want next year's model.
So, but we're gonna leave that there. And the other thing I want to say is, we are not claiming that our skis are in any way a medical device or prevent injury. But what we are exploring today is why some of our customers are not only talking about the performance of the skis, but why are they getting the benefits of less knee pain, plantar fasciitis, where they're not getting pains in their feet. So it's been compelling to us, and so we thought we'd take the time and dive into this, because I think it also talks to the value of Renoun as our skis and certainly our company. So, you know, Ira, I think you told us a little bit about yourself as a physician and your practice, but let's talk about you as a skier. Because I've chased you around the hill enough.
I started out as a hockey player, and so when you play hockey, you're not allowed to ski. So I was kind of a late bloomer as far as skiing goes, and absolutely fell in love with it, mainly because it's such a great family sport. It's a great way to spend weekends in the winter in New England, and just love the technical side of it, the bumps, the trees, the speed, the steeps, just about every condition that New England is notorious for throwing at you. So, and I haven't tired of that. In fact, I'm constantly in search of powder and whatever New England throws at us.
So, you know, it's funny because I obviously, you know, a little bit about knees and the impact of skiing on joints, but I have to ask, you know, was it skiing that caused you that caused your knee problems, or hockey, or just being an athlete?
Well, as the Three Stooges would say, I'm a victim of circumstance. And so basically my right knee was injured way back when I was a senior in college with a soccer injury, required an open meniscus resection. And then my left knee, this is near and dear to your heart, was a result of a really hard swing on the practice range at the golf course and took out my lateral meniscus and then totally dusted my lateral compartment. So I ended up with a lateral compartment replacement there as well.
And was the getting back on the hill, was that a motivating factor for you to?
No doubt. So I tried the right one I've kind of been living with. The left one was much more acute. And when my associate, I asked him to scope it. When he scoped it, I had some damage to the surface of the bone on the lateral side. So once I lost the cartilage, the surface damage became problematic. And so basically, shortly after, about 6 months or so after, we were up in Revelstoke and we were skiing frozen crud off piste, and I had 100mm ski underfoot, and just trying to turn those guys and hold an edge, the knee just went south. And it wasn't very long before I realized, after repeating the MRI, that I'd worn right through the cartilage surface, significant bone bruising, bone overload, and I was in deep trouble. And I came back to the States to sew, and then we were skiing, and after the third run, I would go to load that lateral compartment on the left knee, and I just couldn't trust it. And if you're carrying speed, I was worried I was going to get hurt. So I knew it was time to do something.
So, you know, I think one of the things that when we get into the skis and what happens with the skis, I think it's important, Ira, and I know that our customers out there and others who have knee issues, athletes, it's important. Maybe it's important to talk a little bit about what's going on with your knees, with when you're skiing, what the impact of skiing are, what muscles, what joints. So maybe you can give us a little perspective as a physician of what, and as a skier, what's happening when you're skiing with your knees.
So I think if you contrast it to running and walking, that's a direct straight ahead sport where an axial load, there's not a lot of pivoting or twisting. Skiing is a totally different animal. It's not as it's not considered a level 1 sport like baseball, football, softball, soccer. It's considered a level 2 sport. The platform that you're skiing on is basically mobile. It rotates, and that generates a lot of variables as far as your response when you're on the hill, and that can be dictated by the conditions you're skiing, but also by the ski you're skiing. So it requires reaction, flexibility, endurance, strength. And you don't look at just the knee or just the hip or just the back. It's a function of the whole lower extremity chain, including your core, as well as hip, knee, and ankle inside your boot as you're rolling your ankles to generate edge control.
So like when you have a healthy knee, what are the forces on the knee, and how does that change when you have knee issues?
Well, so that with a healthy knee, hopefully, if you're, I like to think of myself as an okay skier. People say I'm an expert. I don't consider myself an expert, but anyways, the point being, and you can see by the video if you have already seen it, but I would say that in a healthy knee in general, the whole goal is to be over the ski, balanced, and the forces are well taken and distributed equally over a good chondral surfaces, which are the surface of the bone, as well as the meniscus. Your ACL ligaments are intact, and they can take the forces and the stresses that are applied. When you now deviate from the norm, and now you're dealing with an abnormal joint, it's going to be predicated on flexibility, strength, endurance, and sport-specific plyometric flexibility. So basically, what I'm getting at is, it's what does your knee look like? Is it stiff? Is it loose? What's the alignment like? What's your kneecap joint like? And it's really important to understand that when you do ski, you're using not just the bony conformity, but you're also using the muscles. And the muscles are your dynamic stabilizer. So they're at risk for fatigue. They're at risk for overload. And a lot of it has to do with the forces that are applied. And those are generated, again, by the terrain, but also by the ski that you're skiing on.
So when you have now contrast that to people that have knee problems or had knee problems in the past, or one of our customers who had plantar fasciitis, who called me at one point, and after demoing our skis, basically said, she's not able to ski 3 runs before this, and was able to be out, a good part of the day. So that was a big change. But what's going on physiologically when you're compromised and you're on skis?
Well, you're going to start overloading other parts of your body. So, if you have a knee that doesn't flex as far, or a knee that doesn't extend as much, or, in her case, potentially, it sounds like so plantar fasciitis is a function of flexibility in the entire extremity. It's not just the foot. So you have to look at the plantar fascia, you need to look at the calf and gastroc, you need to look at the hamstrings, you need to look at your core strength, and even your back for that. So the point is if you have a weak link in the system, in a system that's already compromised, then skiing can certainly put that area at risk. So, again, rolling your ankle, putting a lot of stress, trying to drive that edge, can put a lot of stress across the medial aspect of the plantar fascia. It can certainly stress that. And then, obviously, if you're having significant kneecap or patellofemoral pre-existent problems, that can be very much accentuated, especially if you're thrown in the back seat or you're thrown forward. Mm-hmm. So, it's a system. It's not just one particular joint.
So I wanted to go back and explore, you made a comment about skiing being a type 2 sport. I think you mentioned football. I'm not sure about hockey where that one fits, but
type 2.
But what is a type 1 sport versus a type 2 sport? How do you?
Type 1 is when you plant your foot and pivot and twist. You have a fixed platform, and all of a sudden you're twisting. It puts a lot of torque across the foot, and then generates up through the body. So that basically you see a lot of basketball players and whatnot, and they jump up and they come down, and then all of a sudden these forces are applied on a fixed platform. For knee, for skiing, excuse me, the knee is floating a bit. And so edge position, body position, those are more of a concern.
Okay. And so now kind of I start to think about Renoun skis, and one of the things that we'll get to, but let me just look at it from an abstract standpoint. Obviously vibration, because you know we talk a lot about vibration and absorbing vibration, but how does vibration either exacerbate the problem with your knees or exacerbate the stress, or where does vibration play a role when you're skiing?
Well, your knee is a dynamic structure, so it's responding to the forces that are applied. And again, it's bony, it's chondral, which is the surface on the bone, and meniscal, and then it's dynamic, which is the muscle. So if you have a lot of repetitive vibration across a joint, you're going to potentially injure or overload the chondral or surface of the bone, maybe potentially overload or strain the bone itself, and that can lead to bone edema, which happened in my case, resulting in a lateral meniscus, lateral unicompartmental arthroplasty, and then also just fatigue. And so what happens is if you're constantly trying to compensate, and your quads are your shock absorbers of your lower extremities, and that vibration is just constant. And I mean, most of us will agree, if you're skiing on a hard, icy, ruddy, cruddy day or off piste, your quads, really take a hit. And the more fatigued you are, the more at risk you then become as far as injury goes. How many people can say, I got injured on the last run of the day?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, of course, it's going to be the last run of the day, but most of the time it's later in the day.
Right.
It's rare that unless you're not really ready to go right out of the chute, and then you get injured right out of the chute that morning. But in general, it's later on in the day when you're getting tired, and most of us know, I'm probably done. Maybe I should just quit.
Yeah. And you think that's a big vibration has a big influence on that, on fatigue?
No doubt. It's like how many times you get in a bump field and you're starting to do bumps and you get down, and all of a sudden you get really sloppy, and one ski's going one way, one ski's going the other. Well, it's because you're compensating with your quad. You're losing that control, and now all of a sudden your right ski's doing a dance one way and your left's going the other way. So, the fatigability is a very important factor as far as injury goes.
So, you and I were talking offline the other day, and we were talking about, skiing and what makes, when you're skiing well, just sort of biometrically, what's going on, when you're in the right position. And I assume if you're in the right position, that's taking strain off your knees, right?
Well, and most of us know, I mean, you can tell I'm not tired. I feel like I'm on top of my skis. I can, I'm controlling them better. I mean, for me, I tend to get a little forward flex to the hip, which I really need to open up and get a little more vertical. And I keep working on that. The point of it all is that you can tell when you're in the right spot. You're not sitting far back. Your quads aren't burning. You don't feel like you're all of a sudden anything you hit's going to throw you forward. Your balance is directly over that ski.
Great. So we're going to come back to that one because we're going to get on to the fun stuff now.
You want to talk Renoun, I know. So.
I think we've gotten the technical doctor stuff out of the way. So, but I think what's really interesting when you and I talk about this is your experience as a skier. So let's just talk broad term. You're like, first of all, how many pairs of skis you own?
How many skis have I bought in my lifetime? Or how many do I know? So right now,
how many in your closet right now?
I have 5. And they're basically, I have an 80 underfoot, 88 underfoot, 98 underfoot, 102, and 104. And each one is designed kind of for different conditions. The 80 is more for fast, hard pack. The 88 is kind of all mountain. The 98 is a little bit more, I'm going to go off piste or a little bit crud. And the 102 and the 104s are really for backcountry. The 104s are really super light, so they're more for powder off piste. Furthermore, if I'm going to be out in the backcountry all day, I want as light a ski as I can get. If I'm going to go, say I'm just going to skin up the hill, then the 102s are great because I'm going to be skiing back down. So if you're skiing a lot of resort skiing, but yet you still want to skin, you need something that's got a little bit more beef to it. And
so how many days do you think you ski a year on average?
So as I said, I'm getting close to retirement. So today I was 58 days on snow, which up to that point, it was like 45. I try to get at least 40. But work got in the way, and so as I'm starting to retire, hopefully I can get up to that 100-day goal someday.
And so when your knees hurt, when are you experiencing that? What do you personally think?
When I'm in the back seat, and so I have partial lateral knee replacements, which means only the outside or lateral side of my knee has been replaced. So what's remaining? My kneecap joint and the inside of my knee. The inside of my knees are fine. My patellofemoral joint, my right knee is much older as far as previous injury than my left knee. So my left knee is almost pristine, kneecap joint and medial side. So having done my lateral uni, it's like I never had anything done to it. It's awesome. My right knee, I have a little bit more, a lot more arthritis underneath the kneecap. And when I really push it hard, it gets aggravated. And so it's going to be that anterior knee compartment, patellofemoral joint. And I notice especially icy conditions, bumps, trees, all of which I like to do.
So would you say that your experience is comparable to other athletes that have had knee injuries? In other words, because you have knee replacements or anything like that, or is it generally the same as other people, or are you or is anything special about your knee pain that other people wouldn't have?
Well, we all like to think we're special, but no. I think most skiers, a lot of skiers realize a lot of anterior knee pain, and a lot of, again, is not a lot of us are not expert skiers. I mean, basically, we tend to be in the back seat. We tend not to edge as well, and initiate our turns as well. And so I would tend to say that people tend to put a lot more stress across their quad, patellofemoral joint. So most of the time they have a lot of anterior knee pain. I'll never forget, I went heli skiing once, and we were in a lot of powder, and I got back. I could not walk up the stairs. My quads were totally dusted, and it's because I just was not used to skiing that powder. It was heavy, and also I'm a better skier now. I wish I was even better than I am, but the point being is that I was a relatively new skier, and it was just difficult to skip forward.
You were recently, I'm jealous, but you were recently in Japan and skiing and doing some backcountry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you were telling me about the experience of what it was like going from various different conditions, and maybe you could relay that experience.
So I can't say the manufacturer, but I can tell you it was a 104, and it was a softer meant purely for backcountry skiing. And so we're using the lift to access the backcountry ski. So backcountry skiing. So we would go up the lift, go through the gate, and then we drop into these chutes, and then the guide would bring us back around and get us back to the lift, and we do it again, different line. So anyways, at the end of the day, we missed they shut the line down, and so we had to come down the resort side of it. And so I have my backcountry skis specifically designed for more or less for powder and backcountry, and now I had to ski the resort down. Oh my God, it was terrible. I mean, they wouldn't hold an edge. They were chattering all over the place. I could not get off them quick enough. And it was just really reinforced the fact that, that quiver is designed to accommodate the conditions you're skiing in. And so in this particular case, I was definitely on the wrong ski.
And did that exacerbate any knee pain in that?
I was definitely not a happy camper. I mean, I was sore by the time I got done.
So, Ira, obviously, we had you try the Renoun lineup, and because again, I think for the purposes of this call, one of the reasons why we're having this webinar is because we want to figure out, is this real? I mean, what is going on? The Renoun skis are designed for performance. They're designed for being able to be versatile in different conditions, but as I said, they don't prevent knee injuries, but they seem to be contributing to it. Let's talk about your experience on our skis. And
so you guys asked me, you specifically, I think just knowing that I love to ski, is I'm a bit of a technophile. That kind of goes hand in hand with my job or career. But so anyways, I thought, this would be kind of fun. Nothing to lose. Why not? And so I got out on them, and it was the thing I had noted right off the bat was I felt these skis were much lighter, number one. Number two, they were very quick to turn. And if you look at the turn radius and you compare them, and I compared it to a bunch of different manufacturers, and the turning radius is much shorter, I think, comparatively speaking to a lot of very well-known brands out there. And it's interesting to watch. So now that I'm doing this, I'm much more aware of the people that are skiing on the hill, and I'm looking at trying to see, well, what are they wearing? And I see so many people that are in. It's like somebody buying a Porsche and they don't even know how to drive a VW. I mean, they really don't understand the nature of the ski and what it can do or what it demands that you do. And so I think a lot of people are in skis, frankly, they're just not the right ski for them. But they like the name.
Mhm.
So I think it's important to really vet the product so that you understand, well, what can the product enable you to do? So I found with Renoun, again, it was softer in a sense that it was easier to get forward. But when I needed it to be, it was stiff. It performed for me. Two, I felt it was lighter, so I wasn't as easily fatigued. And then three, I thought it had great edge control. So even on ice and in crud, I could really drive it, and it didn't tail wash. A lot of skis, the tails will wash out on them, and it really held a line. And I don't know if that's the mechanics or the design of the ski as much as it's the VibeStop. And again, I'm not a biomechanical engineer, and I don't know all the nuances of VibeStop, but I understand, on a microscopic level, it's a dynamic medium and it responds to load applied, and it makes total sense. When I was soft on it, it was, not pushing me around, and when I needed to be there, it was. And so it reminds me, I think of it as the ski is not making me ski the way the ski wants me to ski. I'm making the ski the way I want to ski. So it enables me to ski. If I want to take the load off and dial back a little bit, it's still there for me. I don't have to worry about it kicking me into the back seat or throwing me, into a bump. So I just really found it was very dynamic and very responsive to the needs at the time.
And you did get to try it in different places. Wasn't all at Stowe, right?
No, so I was really. Rob kept saying, "Well, go try it, go try it." So I tried it at Stowe and the usual conditions, everything from ice, steeps, some trees and bumps, and then was fortunate enough to get invited out to Jackson Hole. And so we got 11 inches the day before we got there, and after I have mitigation, we got out on the hill, and so we were skiing Rendezvous Bowl, Bivouac Trail, which are steep double bump, double black tree bump runs, and some off-piste stuff as well. And I had the 98s at that time, and a lot of guys would be out there in 104s, 106s, but it was just that's all I had at the time. 98s were great. I mean, they responded very well, and again, they responded to the conditions. And I was skiing the 98s at Stowe and at Jackson Hole. And then shortly after that, was able to try the Citadels. I was just basically back, I should say, skinning up one of the trails at Stowe. And it was at night. And so we were coming down an ungroomed slope, and they were light going up, which is great. And coming down, you still ungroomed, and it was starting to freeze up. So you had kind of hard pack, icy stuff. And I still found, this was kind of similar to that Japan experience, but I still found I could hold an edge. I could still drive them, not drive them, but steer them through. It was dark. We were using headlights, so I couldn't get too crazy. But at the same time, I was able to navigate the slope coming down. And so I found that even though they're 106s, they still carve surprisingly well. Not like that 104 that I had that got really soft and was chattery, and it was really hard to keep that edge engaged on the snow.
So bringing it back to your knees now, and we're not talking about this from a clinical standpoint, but you personally, what were you feeling in your reconstructed knees as when you were on Renoun? Were you seeing benefit? Were you seeing anything different from other skis you've been on?
Well, I was much more confident on them. Again, I didn't feel like I was going to get thrown around. I didn't feel like I had to force the ski to ski the way I wanted it to ski. I just felt like the ski, I didn't have to think about it. I just could do what I wanted to do with it. And again, I felt it was light. I wasn't as fatigued. It was a very quick turning ski. And again, it had a great edge control, and I didn't experience tail wash that you'll get with some of the other brands.
Great. And your knees, did they hurt? Were they? Was it about the same?
I'm not going to say no. I mean, look, I've got reconstructed knees. I would say that my knees did not hurt anywhere near as much as the previous skis I've had. And I've got of the 5 skis, they're not one manufacturer. They're all 5 are different. So I've had the opportunity of skiing multiple different manufacturers, and I each ski brings to the table its own qualities, if you will, and stuff. I just found that the Renoun was much more versatile. And again, I usually I have patients with knee problems, especially kneecap or quad. What I'm telling them to do is potentially consider getting a softer boot. Instead of your skiing a 130 or a 120 flex, you might want to think about a 110 or 100 in some cases, and also your weight, because that's going to affect how forward you can get and how you can drive the boot. Secondly, getting a slightly softer ski is very helpful. And then, believe it or not, getting a slightly narrower ski so you can get it on edge, so you don't have to really roll your knee up to get that ski on edge to bring it around. When you initiate a turn, it's that uphill ski, you're turning, you're driving that edge, and then just let the ski turn. If you can't get it on edge, you can't get it to turn around. You're going to get the tail wash. And for me, the Renoun was very easy to initiate. It just came around, and it just came around for me. So I found, at least in my experience, it was an easier day on the slopes.
And do you think, did you notice the vibration reduction?
Yeah.
Through the VibeStop?
Yeah. I don't know if it's a VibeStop. Maybe it's just, but
maybe.
just the ski in general. I mean, I guess it is. And certainly Cyrus can speak to that.
I think as you and I talked about, the fatigue factor, it's in a lot of it has to do with being in the right position on the ski and not using the wrong muscles at the wrong time.
Well, and if the ski throws you in a position that you don't want to be in, then you're fighting to get back at it. And as you get older, much as I hate to say it, you're going to get more easily fatigued. You're going to be stiffer. You're not going to have the balance you used to have. And I think it's a reasonable thing to suggest that people try that.
So I think maybe to close before we go to questions from the audience, is it fair to say? I mean, is the for you personally, the impact on your knees was the vibration absorption, was the better allowing you to be more confident, better position on ski, or both?
I think it's probably both. I would say that the VibeStop, the way it's placed on the ski, tips and tails, basically, it's obviously going to be a dampener a bit, but also with its linear positioning. And again, Cyrus can speak to that. I'm not a biomechanical engineer. I'll be the first to, take myself off of that table. But the point is that just positioning, I'm sure there's a reason for why they put it in, how they put it in. But I just found that torsionally, it was great. They could really initiate that turn and hold the edge.
And the weight was
great. And so it's really important. So what do backcountry skiers do? They're shaving off grams. Okay, I mean the skis are super light. They're not meant to be a resort ski, and so they're literally shaving off grams. And so the 106 is when you compare the weight of like a 104, 106, and some of these other skis, you'll be amazed at how much lighter it is. But what I was surprised at is, despite the weight differential, I didn't feel that the Citadel compromised performance. It was plenty stiff when I needed it to be stiff, but yet it was soft when I needed it to be soft. And then lastly, it had float when I needed that float. And then when I'm in the backcountry, it's lighter. So as you get older, or even just if you're going to be out there all day, it's key to unload the weight. Every step you take, grams matter. And so if you can unload the weight and have a lighter ski, you're going to have a better day out there, and you're not going to be as fatigued, and it's going to be more fun.
So next time you go to Japan, can you take the Citadel with you?
I am on it. I appreciate that.
Khalil, Ira, thanks for the that was our sort of formal fireside chat part of the webinar, and I hope everyone came away as I suspect that, yes, not only are you a great physician and a knee surgeon, but you're also a pretty experienced skier. Well, and you know what you're talking about.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, there are certainly expert skiers who say he doesn't know what he's talking about. And maybe I guess, look, I always kid people and say I'm not the haircut president. I'm also a client. I can speak from experience on the ski, which therefore makes it easy for me to advocate for the ski. Again, they're not compensating me to do this. It was fun. It was a great experience to experience the ski, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you for the opportunity.
So Khalil, I'm going to kind of open it up to questions. I mean, I think this is a great opportunity for people to, who do have knee issues, to ask questions like how to, anything is fair game. So, let me turn it back to you.
Yeah, so if anyone in the audience has a question, there's a Q&A box. Leave your questions in there, and we're gonna make sure we get through them. I also do want to remind everyone that Renoun is currently on net capital with an equity crowdfunding campaign. A lot of information, a lot of valuable information is on that raise page. I'm gonna drop the link here in the chat for everyone, just so if you want to go and have some more information. We'll also be posting the replay of the webinar there. But let's see, let's go into questions. The first question I'm seeing here is, Dr. Evans, you have two partially replaced knees. What do you do to safeguard your knees when skiing?
So I don't wear braces anymore. Prior to getting them done, I had braces. I was loading up on Advil and Tylenol. I'd get back and I was icing them out. So actually on the snow, I've discontinued knee braces and stuff because I really don't need them. I would say that it's extremely important pre-season to recognize this is not like golf where you walk up to the first tee without stretching and just drive a ball. Skiing is a demanding sport, and I think it's important to recognize you need to do some aerobic as well as anaerobic stuff, some balance training, some leg presses. Squats are super huge, especially as we get older. It's important for balance. So you get what you pay for, and pay for meaning you got to put your time in. But I've been very fortunate now with the partials. I don't need knee supports anymore, and I'm really excited about that. Some people will still use them for the proprioceptive aspect of it. It'll give you a sense of warmth, compression, and a sense of awareness of the knee. There's not a brace in this world that's going to prevent you from being able to control that knee. That's why when people blow their ACLs, they have to get the knee fixed, because it's millimeters of translation that results in an unstable knee, and a brace can't control that well enough, especially in a high-end athlete. But in general, I found the partials were tremendous. I'll step out on a limb and say I know Lindsey Vonn just had a knee replacement, and as I read about it, she had a partial knee replacement, and guess what? She had a lateral partial knee replacement. It's a compartment that's frequently injured with skiers, I wouldn't be least bit surprised if she's very happy with it.
One of the things you mentioned earlier, Ira, when we talked about, which is, I, I'll my pride gets in the way too. Like when I'm looking at new boots, I'm like, I want that 130 compression boot like I was when I was 25. But I think you mentioned, particularly people with knee injuries, maybe go to a softer compression boot.
Yeah, and you also have to look at the climate you're skiing in. So still, it can get down to -20 at least prior to climate change, and that boat, when you get it out there, gets much stiffer. If you're a racer, really super high speed, you obviously want a very responsive platform. Certainly a stiffer boot's the way to go. But I think as much as I hate to say it, as you get older, going to a 120, going to a 110, it's going to enable you to get a little more forward, get a little bit more flex. The hard part is obviously you're testing it out in the ski shop in 70-degree heat. Now you go out and use it in -20, it's going to respond differently. But I think it's important to recognize the fact that as you do get older, a little bit of forward flex, improved less stiffness would be helpful.
Right. So I think I'm not going to plug the vibration thing again, but it's pretty clear that if you can get in the right body position, which a softer boot might help you do, it's going to take strain off your knees.
No question. Obviously when you go to, we always teach people, like myself, you're initiating a turn, you want to feel your tibia in the front of the boot, right? And so, and same holds true with your ski. You want to be able to get over it, and if you can't push through that, it's going to throw you in the back seat. It's going to overload your kneecap.
Okay.
Yeah. And then on that topic of athletes, what about athletes who have had knee injuries? Will they benefit from Renoun skis?
I would, that's you want a black and white answer to a very great question. And so I would be very cautious in doing that. So what I try to do is feel the patients out. Who are they? What are they trying to accomplish? How are they skiing? What is their foot position? Have they seen a good boot fitter? A good boot fitter. You can play with footbeds. You can cant the boots. You can grind the boots. Position of the binding on the ski, type of ski they're skiing, how do they ski? So those are all variables that go into that. That said, I would say that from my experience with what I saw with Renoun, as far as its dynamic responsiveness, its edge control, and the ability to avoid tail wash and whatnot, and the lightness of them, to me, at least makes sense that it's certainly worth the effort to try them out.
And then past VibeStop, do you take stack height and delta into consideration when making a binding choice and maximizing knee protection?
Can you repeat that?
That's
Sorry,
like-
that came through clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, past VibeStop, do you take stack height and delta into consideration when making a binding choice in maximizing knee protection?
That's a great, I can't comment on bindings. You know, there's obviously up at Stowe, they have a knee binding company. And, you know, I would try to have a binding that has basically variable release, both front as well as back. If you're skiing off piste, I would, you know, I think a rear din's fine. If you're using an off piste ski to ski resort, I would recommend that you use something that has a din setting on both front and back. The problem with going off piste onto the resort, there's been a significant increase in torsional injuries to the tibia. So I think if you have a fixed toe pin, you're going to run the risk of fracturing your tibia. So, but I would encourage you to try to look at multi-axial bindings.
So, Ira, you know, some on touring bindings in particular, they allow you to pivot your heel out, but
Right.
but your toe's fixed.
Right, that's a problem.
That's a problem.
Yeah, especially if you're doing the resort, because you're carrying speed a lot of times, plus you're hitting a lot of fixed
Moguls and
bumps and whatnot.
Um,
Yeah, when you're out back, you know, obviously you're trying. The big issue is grams. They're trying to decrease weight. So, you know, people go into, you know, basically a pin binding in the front, and they're very minimalist,
right.
extremely minimalist. Even the heel release is minimalist. And you know, that's why when you're skiing downhill, they don't want you skiing with a walk mode, because you're going to definitely torque your tibia. But but I think when you're on a resort and you're skiing, carrying with a lot more speed, you definitely need a front back din.
How about hybrid bindings, like you know, where that are, but you know, sort of resort. I won't say any vendor name because but you know, where it's where you can it's a resort binding. When you're on the resort, it's a touring binding or semi-touring binding. Do you recommend those? Or those?
Yeah, absolutely.
Those
So if you're on the resort, definitely I do front back. So my 102s, I have front back. So I took off my previous fixed pins and I put in a front back din binding, you know, one of the newer ones. But for my off-piste, totally off-piste ski, if I know I'm going to ski any resort, I'm going back to my 102. So I'm not going to ski anything that has a fixed toe pin on resort, just because my daughter's new husband had a big spiral fracture of his tibia a while back and had it rotted, and he's on a fixed toe pin binding, you know, for his ski. And
as a follow-up question, do you think people overcrank their din?
Well, it depends upon your skiing, you know, and you know what happens when you get older. I walk in the shop and they keep cutting it back, and I've had a couple times where I've bottomed out a little bit in the bump and then just launched and right out of the binding. And I was like, that wasn't that much, but I was glad I launched and didn't, you know, do something bad. So I think, you know, definitely as you get older, much as I hate to say it, your balance, your strength.
What about if you've had any injuries? Should you?
Yeah, I definitely
would go.
Yeah, I would dial it back
and
you know, and basically know yourself. You know what you're trying to accomplish.
And then someone's saying here's a little off topic, however, what are the most knee-friendly exercises per season?
So I would first off, I used to poo-poo personal trainers. I can't advocate for them enough, and the reason for that is as I'm closing toward retirement, I had the time to actually start to really focus on trying to stay ahead of the curve, and so I enlisted the service of a good friend of mine who's an AT and athletic trainer and personal trainer, and they'll pick up on asymmetry in flexibility, asymmetry in balance, asymmetry in strength, and then they can focus on things that are helpful. So first off, I would definitely suggest a personal trainer just to help vet those aspects of who you are as an individual. After that, leg presses, squats, lunges, mini squats, hamstring curls are great. Plyometrics, jumping up, box jumping, step ups, side to side, are things that helpful.
How about bike, on time on bike?
So aerobic stuff is great, but it's inline stuff. And so you really want to add the plyometric side of things. So jump training side to side stuff is super helpful. But the bike, it definitely, no doubt, Stairmaster. So I do a lot of Stairmaster, Peloton, and then, walking. I don't run anymore. I could probably run. My kids are all doing triathlons and half marathons and half Ironman and all this. Believe it or not, they are. But the point is, I was like, I can do that. Well, I really can't. And the reality of it is I want to keep the wheels I have, and even though half of them are fake, they're still working pretty well, and I want to keep them as long as I can. So the impact is going to potentiate early failure of those. That's why I'm trying to be nice to them.
And then someone over here saying, I've just bought a pair of Endurance 88s, probably won't ski them until next season. First of 3 arthroscopic meniscectomy procedures was in 1976, and I'm in constant pain. Skiing doesn't hurt, but I know it's holding me back, especially in bumps. Should I admit I'm old and stay off the bumps, or consider a ski that might be more bump friendly?
So a lot of it I would say, first off, I would definitely do the conditioning. I think that's super important. Secondly, there are braces you can use to unload the particular compartment. So if you had a medial meniscus tear and you took out the medial meniscus and you have a bowed leg, there's a brace that can shift your weight to the lateral side and unload the inside. In my case, I had the lateral meniscus taken out. I was using a brace to shift the weight to the inside, and that worked for a while. And then it got to the point where there was too much wear, it just didn't help. But it's very important. Weight, your overall weight is important. I would say that your conditioning is super important, because those quads are your shock absorbers. And so if you condition them in a controlled manner, they're going to be able to soften the blow, just like maybe Renoun, VibeStop, but it's going to soften the blow and mitigate the stress across that leg so that it doesn't hurt as much. And the vibration translated to the bone as well as to the muscles. So as far as the ski goes, and your skiing, I would get a good boot fitter. They can either look at your alignment and either laser your boot so that you can either mess with canting the boot or grinding the boot. I would make sure that you don't have a flat foot, or you don't have an exceptionally cavous foot. You can do orthotics to compensate, footbeds to compensate for that. And then they can cant you just a little bit one way or the other to unload it. All that being said, then I mentioned before, how stiff is your boot? Are you skiing a 110, 120, 130? And you can maybe soften the boot. Then you get into the, what are you skiing at? 88s, that's a perfect width. I mean, I think that's a great all mountain width for sure. I see an awful lot of older skiers that are on 98, 102, 104. You shouldn't be on those. They're too hard to get on edge. But I think the 88's awesome. And some people, 92 is pretty good. But I think looking at narrowing the skis is important. And then last but not least is looking at the flex. And I would definitely, if you can do demo days, I would play around with trying to sort out the flex as far as how does it feel having a slightly softer ski in the shovel. You'd be able to get forward, maybe initiate the turn a little easier. So and again, it gets back to what I said before. You don't want to have to force yourself to ski the ski. You want to be able to ski the way you want to ski it. So, and I think Renoun, at least in my experience, enabled me to do that. And again, I skied on 5 different manufacturers, and I can say it honestly, I feel it was an easier ski for me to play with.
And you mentioned narrower skis can put less stress on the knees. Would you advocate more narrower offerings from Renoun?
Would I advocate more narrow? Is that what you?
More narrower offerings from Renoun.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question you got there, because I was thinking about that. So a good friend of mine is very interested in getting a pair of Renouns, and he's coming off of skiing out west, and he's skiing on 106, 108. And he's 147 pounds, and he's about 5'6". I'm 152 pounds, and I'm 5'9". He's 5'7". But anyways, the point is he's very light, but he's skiing exceptionally wide skis. And actually, they were a little bit longer. And he said, it's like I'm getting harder. It's getting harder and harder to ski. It's really, I said, look, go down to a narrower ski. He's a very good skier, and so he's actually looking to get in the 98s. So I think given your level of expertise, as you get older, if you're finding it's fatiguing and getting harder to initiate the turns, you can go narrower, base it on your skiing ability as well. But I think I'm actually contemplating the 98s. When I first started demoing Renouns, I was on the 98s, and I absolutely loved them. I thought the 88s were good, but I loved the 98s. I thought they were, for me, more versatile all around.
I think also it depends on what you like to ski. So, I wouldn't recommend the 80s if you like to be out, off piece or
Totally agree, yeah.
right. I think the 88s is a little bit more versatile. But if you really just like carving, the 80 underfoot is a very easy ski.
So I got a chance to ski those, and on the cruisers and stuff, they carve a great edge. I totally agree with you. So I have to preface or follow up with what I said with, well, what are you skiing? It's exactly what you said. And so, again, we try to ski everything on the hill, and I can't keep switching them out
Right.
all day. So if I know it's going to be totally iced out in the glades and I'm not going to be off piste, I'll get on an 80. But if I'm going to be, my kids are always dragging me. The three most dangerous words in skiing are "follow me, Dad." Okay, and so needless to say, I've fallen victim to that in the past. And so the key is to avoid getting sucked into something you're not really prepared for. But in general, I would say the 88s and the 98s are a very versatile ski. The 80 is almost a little bit of a niche ski, and the 106s, again, I would say is a little bit of a niche, but you can take it on piste.
And I know you talked a little bit about the knee exercises, but what about anything else? What can you do to prevent knee injuries while skiing?
It's balance. Balance is super huge. And so again, yoga, Pilates, but you want to do things that are dynamic, because skiing is a dynamic sport. It's not like you're just standing in one place and pushing a weight. That's one of the arguments against a lot of what people do in the gym, is it's a very unidirectional type of thing. So skipping rope, doing what are, if you're familiar with a BAPS board, or Bosu ball, doing exercises on those. I do Bosu ball, where you jump from one side, jump on the ball, jump to the other side, jump on the ball, jump to the other side. It's simulating weight transfer side to side, foot to foot, and as well as core. And so the dynamic plyometric stuff is super important. So that's where, again, a personal trainer could help. You go in here and say, look, I am a skier, I'm hardcore or whatever. This is what I'm looking for. Find out what your deficiencies are. But I would, not only are you doing the strengthening with leg presses, squats, lunges, and some static balance stuff, but you also should be doing some plyometric balance training as well.
And any final thoughts on the future of skiing technology and its role in orthopedics?
I don't know. I mean, Cyrus can speak to that. I mean, I've heard stuff about putting it in different surfaces, all that kind of stuff. You can speak to that. That's outside of my bailiwick, but maybe you could.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think you covered it really earlier. Or it's what we're trying to do with when we design skis. It's trying to be able to maintain stiffness without putting a ton of metal in it that increases weight, and experimenting with different types of materials. And I think one of the things that and Cyrus talked about this on some of the other webinars, is that traditionally, skis have been made the same way with the same materials for a long time, and it's time to maybe try different things. And that's how VibeStop was created in the first place. He came up with an idea that, hey, let me try putting something else in the ski. We believe that, and we will continue to do more R&D and start looking at other materials. But at the end of the day, it's about having the right ski for you and having the right ski that allows you to get in the right body position. Because we could talk about skis that I'm not going to ski on Lindsey Vonn skis or Ted Ligety skis, because I will never be able to push them the way they can. Maybe 2 runs. Maybe I can push them for 2 runs, but I can't do it all day. And you have to be a little bit humble to say, I'm not a I'm not an Olympic racer, so I can't be on Olympic race skis, that kind of thing, you know.
Rob, Dr. Ira, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we sign off here today?
No, well, of course, thank you for everybody joining. And you know, I think again, we're not trying to say that Renoun skis save are prevent knee injuries. They don't. We're the whole reason we're here today is because we're responding to the comments and the feedback we've been getting from our customers that say there's a difference. And this was all about exploring that difference and seeing if it's having real positive effect.
I think that sums it up very well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for taking time out of your day to talk to us. And everyone in the audience, thank you so much for attending. And yeah, if you wanted to catch the replay, we will be posting it on the Net Capital page, so be on the lookout for that. Yeah, hope everyone has a good rest of their day.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.